Tanse, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The Edmonton Police Service has charged Tsuut'ina Nation Chief Roy Whitney with 2 accounts of sexual assault from incidents that are alleged to have occurred in 1994 and 2005. The 2 victims are male and both are from Tsuut'ina Nation. Edmonton police arrested the chief on Wednesday. They believe there may be more victims who have not yet come forward. In a written statement, Chief Whitney denies the charges and says they are without merit. Whitney says he will continue to fulfill his duties as chief. None of the allegations have been tested in court. A First Nation in the Northwest Territories says they found the unmarked graves of students of the St. Joseph Residential School, which ran from 1857 to 1890 on Mission Island, but moved to Fort Resolution in 1910. The Deni-Nukwe First Nation in Fort Resolution said on Thursday that it found the resting place of 5 children and 2 adults. Members of the First Nation have been searching for the graves since 2022. They used cadaver dogs to find these 7 graves and believe there could be as many as 60 more. The First Nation says they will now work on determining who the 5 children and 2 adults are, including how they died. A First Nation in Ontario is taking legal action to try and prevent development of the so-called Ring of Fire. The mineral-rich region is located about 500 kilometers northeast of Thunder Bay on the traditional territory of the Martin Falls First Nation. The First Nation is asking the courts for injunctions against the provincial and federal governments to block them from funding or participating in mining-related activities in the Ring of Fire. The First Nation is worried the new laws known as Bill C-5 and Bill 5 could be used to push through development despite environmental concerns. Martin Falls has been working on assessments for roads that would connect its community to the provincial highway system and lead to mineral projects. The Ontario government says the First Nation has shown steadfast support for the Ring of Fire since 2018. Some big news in the sports world. The North American Indigenous Games Council has announced it is retracting hosting rights from Calgary in 2027. The NAG Council says it made the difficult decision to withdraw the hosting rights after a period of deep reflection and careful consideration. The NAG Council says they've been working closely with the Calgary Host Society for 2 years, but despite the collective effort, in their words, critical benchmarks could not be met. The council says it was necessary to retract the hosting rights to uphold the integrity of the games and ensure their long-term strength. The council says it recognizes the pullout may be disappointing to Indigenous athletes, coaches, and families and communities across Turtle Island who are looking forward to gathering in Calgary. We'll have more on this story tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Our weekly Truth in Politics panel is up next. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mark Carney and members of his cabinet have now met with First Nations, Inuit and Métis leaders, but have the summits been a success? That was one of the topics this week for our Truth in Politics panel. Our Sav Jonza recently spoke with Jennifer Leywitz, is the CEO of Pascal Strategies, and Niigaan Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press.
Hey, Niigaan, the PM and cabinet ministers have now met with First Nations, Inuit, and some Métis leaders. What's your take on how these summits have gone?
Well, we'll go through the 3 of them. Uneven with the chiefs. Some chiefs certainly are on board for fast-tracking projects of the national interest, wanted to start it tomorrow. And then you've got, I think, the vast majority of chiefs who felt very unsatisfied, very misrepresented. Also that the meeting was at best confusing and haphazard. The Inuit, I think, was probably the most successful meeting of the three. We heard the least complaints from that area, but notice that it was the one meeting that was different. It was where Carney and his cabinet ministers went to a meeting in which Indigenous peoples had indicated where they would like to meet, helped construct an agenda, and in many cases followed the guidance from those Indigenous peoples. And then we have this Matei Summit, which I don't even think you can call it a summit. To call it a disaster is probably complimenting it, because it is such a mess. You have groups that are boycotting it. You have groups that are attending and purporting to represent people who many Métis people say they don't represent. Where do we even begin to talk about the disaster of this meeting? And so what I would say is it's kind of Canada as usual. It's the way in which Canada continues to treat, as Jen pointed out during our recorded segment, a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to Indigenous peoples, which never works, which is the whole reason why we have regional organizations that represent regional interests, cultural interests to begin with. And it is just a non-effective way of dealing with it. And it really illustrates why national organizations won't be able to get it done for much longer into the future.
Great points. Jennifer, have these summits been a success at all?
I'll go back to what I said earlier. The First Nations one was a mess, and it goes back to, I think, the Carney government not understanding those differences. I saw there was a post on Facebook from a former chief that had said I think it was the province of Newfoundland that had the two chiefs, and they got the same amount of time as the province with like 70 plus nations, which would be Saskatchewan. And it is true where it's like, I don't think you're understanding the regional differences here, and also the differences from not only province to province in terms of what our needs are, because our needs in Saskatchewan are going to be much different than the needs out east or out west. But just how to engage with us, because again, that one size fits all where they assume, we'll just knock off all the provinces, we'll give every province the same amount of time, goes to show that they're also not even understanding the different groups of populations and how there is much more First Nations here than there is out east. So I don't think it was a raving success by any means. I think if we could look at this as a starting point and something to learn from, that would be a benefit, but it's not a starting point because the bill has already passed. So,
Niigaan, do you feel like any Indigenous leader is going to view these summits as the necessary and needed consultation on Bill C-5?
Not as consultation. I mean, that would be a big mistake. However, I do think there is a significant enough amount of chiefs and perhaps a significant amount of Métis leadership. I think there was one thing that's really key to listen to in David Chartrand's speech, MMF president, yesterday. He kept sort of opening the doorway to going, well, we're ready to meet. We only need an hour of your time, Prime Minister. Come over here. We can make an agreement right away. I think there are segments of Indigenous leadership throughout the country that really want to move fast. They understand the unprecedented nature of Donald Trump. And I think that there is areas to grow there. And if I were to be positive, and I'll take Jen's lead in being a bit more glass half full, it is that I think there are areas that the government can work with elements of First Nations, Inuit, and I think probably first off the Métis, that there's opportunities for interest for the Métis sections, and particularly the MMF, to want to work with the federal government. It's just that the federal government continues to kind of step in their own way. They continue to sort of implement their own mistakes, and in many ways they're not taking good guidance. I keep saying this, I feel like a broken record on this program, on this recording that we do every week. Who is counseling this government? Who is talking to the Prime Minister? And it just says to me that there is just some deep problems within the Prime Minister's office when it comes to dealing with First Nations and Métis people in particular. They seem to be okay with counseling on terms of northern issues. So I would give a lot of credit to Minister Chartrand, for example, Rebecca Chartrand and maybe Rebecca Alty. But there's just like, who is telling them that these moves are good? They are clearly not, and they are creating more problems, more obstacles in what is becoming an emergent situation with the U.S. government.
Some good questions there, Niigaan. Jennifer, what do you see is happening next when it comes to consultation over this bill or any announced projects?
I have no idea. It just seems that it changes every week on where I imagine this is going to go. I think that the Prime Minister should take that meeting with the Manitoba Métis, and I think he should, spend some of that time getting to know the people in this country that are the rights holders. The summer months, the House does not resume until mid-September. There's a lot of ample opportunity here. This maybe should have been one of the first things he did, but also maybe go back and start reviewing who it is, the people that are counseling you and giving you this advice, because honestly, a lot of this could be avoided if there were also Indigenous people that have a lay of the land included in these rooms. But the issue is that they have these brick wall around these high-level staffers that try to make contact with our organizations, with our people, and I think they just come back to the table I think this is the right way to go. But maybe if you started putting more of us at the table, you could avoid a lot of this.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Megan, did you have more to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I cannot agree more. This is so avoidable with competency.
Yeah, absolutely. You two are going to have to end it there, but thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And that meeting between Prime Minister Mark Carney and a number of Métis nations wrapped up in Ottawa on Thursday afternoon, even though one of the largest organizations, the Manitoba Métis Federation, chose to boycott the meeting. It didn't seem to dampen the enthusiasm of the nations that did take part. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
Métis Nation of Ontario President Margaret Froh was all smiles as she approached the microphones for a post-summit press conference Thursday afternoon. She says it is clear the Carney government wants to work with Métis governments on economic projects, and they in turn want to take part.
We had a wonderful tone in the meeting. It was very respectful. As I said, all of the Métis leaders had an opportunity to speak and ask questions and offer their comments, as did the ministers. Some really good dialogue, questions asked back and forth. And I think what was clear is that that there's a lot of interest and support in working together and doing that in a way that respects Métis Section 35 rights.
Métis Nation of Alberta President Andrea Sandmeyer says the meeting was largely an opportunity for the governments to get to know each other, although no specific economic projects were discussed at this point.
Today was focused on C5, the implementation of it, and the Indigenous Advisory Committee and the Major Projects Office and those things. That's what it was about.
However, the Liberals have faced fierce criticism at how they rushed their One Economy Act legislation through Parliament this spring, particularly from First Nations who say it was done without proper consultation. But Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Galmasti says all three summit meetings with First Nations, Inuit and Métis leaders have been positive, with a clear message from Indigenous rights holders that they want to be part of the government's economic development plans.
I think for me, what I heard in all three summits is really a desire to define where they want to be in the economic space, what they're looking for in terms of that development for their future members of the nation. That was really a strong takeaway for me. The capacity that they want to build as part of this process, the commitment that they see from this government.
One thing the government did not want to talk about is why the Métis Nation of British Columbia was only offered observer status and declined to attend, even though this nation was until recently part of the Métis National Council. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Rebecca Alty says they do not qualify constitutionally as a legitimate Indigenous organization at present.
The Métis Nation of British Columbia is still going through that Section 35 review. Yeah.
The government says it plans to have a Major Projects Office and Indigenous Advisory Council in place by Labor Day. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
We now want to tell you about this week's 3 web poll questions. Our first question we ask, do you support the building of a pipeline from Alberta to the east coast of Canada? You can vote yes or no. Our second question we ask, should cannabis shops on reserves be subject to federal laws? And your answers are yes, no, or unsure. And our third question is, do you think the country is making progress in terms of reconciliation? You can answer yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca to have your say. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Starting on the East Coast, St. John's 22, Charlottetown 25, and sunny. Cartwright 29 and Sun, Happy Valley Goose Bay 28. 25 in St. Jovite, Quebec City 24 and sunny there. Sun in Toronto at 26, Ottawa 26. Sioux Lookout 23, Smoky and Big Trout Lake at 16. Smoky and Norway House at 18, The Paw 18. 19 in Winnipeg and showers there, Princess Harbor 21. Rain in Swift Current at 14, Smoky and Regina at 17. Smoky and Buffalo Narrows at 18, Stony Rapids 18. Showers in Fort McMurray at 29, Peace River 23. 26 in Lethbridge, 25 in Edmonton. Tofino 18, Penticton 29 and sunny there. Showers in Prince Rupert at 14, Prince George 20 and sunny. Sun in Whitehorse at 18, Watson Lake 18. Wrigley 16, Yellowknife sunny there and 19. Sunny in Sax Harbor at 9, Tuktoyaktuk 16. Baker Lake 7, Chesterfield 11. And showers in Clyde River at 4, Aglulik 4 as well. The White Raven Healing Center in Regina, Saskatchewan has recently hosted a conference for Indigenous youth this week with the hopes that the youth will leave the two-day event inspired. CTV's Mick Fable has that story.
More than 100 young Indigenous people gathered in Regina, focused on culture, empowerment, and healing at the first ever Your Power Within Youth Conference. Attendees were able to sit and listen to local presenters, sharing their stories on finding their path and calling.
We wanted facilitators and speakers that will inspire and encourage them that there is a better life, a healthier life, and that they have a community that cares for them.
White Raven Healing Center is hosting the two-day event. The center is a place focused on holistic mental health and wellness programming. Mitchell Soiwashde from White Raven Healing Center says this generation of teenagers are unique as they had to deal with a world pandemic.
But now that we're kind of doing that turning point, the idea is to provide some sort of normal, life pre-COVID, but also understanding that anything and everything of their opinions and values and issues are important to us.
The youth who attended are from one of the 11 nations that make up the File Hills Qu'Appelle Tribal Council. White Raven has offered an invitation to not only on-reserve youth, but those living in the city as well.
There's certain things that happen in each of the communities, and so trying to address that not only on the nations, but also remembering our urban members as well. And it's trying to figure out how do we address both.
The youth conference concludes Thursday afternoon. Mick Fable, CTV News, Regina.
In Winnipeg, Inuit elders and youth gathered at the Tuunatsugiit Inuit Resource Center on Thursday to share their perspectives on health and well-being. It's part of a project led by researchers at the University of Manitoba in collaboration with Inuit Youth. The project involved a series of workshops and art activities allowing urban Inuit youth to share what health and well-being means to them. After the lighting of the kulik by elders Levnia and Tagak, the youth presented their artwork to guests. Afterwards, the elders and youth gathered in a sharing circle to discuss topics including safety, conflict resolution, and cultural reclamation. Tuunatsugiit Youth Programs Manager Carmelo Shan shared the findings that emerged from their research.
Moving from a small, isolated community in Nunavut, where the population might only be around 1,000 people total, to a city where a school might have just as many students is a huge culture shock. The size, pace, and unfamiliar environment can be overwhelming and isolating. In addition to that, youth also shared how it can be difficult to stay connected to Inuit culture, traditions, and values while navigating city life. Despite these challenges, a key finding was that bringing youth together through activities at Tuunatsugiit helped foster a sense of well-being, belonging, and safety. Many shared that Tuunatsugiit feels like a safe place, a place where they can connect, feel heard, and just be themselves.
For more than 60 years, WACon Pow on Manitoulin Island in Ontario has attracted dancers and singers from across Turtle Island. APTN's Annette Francis introduces us to a few who are well seasoned on the powwow trail and a few who are forging new adventures.
WACon's powwow celebration is held every August long weekend at the Thunderbird Park. Bruce Smoke and his family make the trek here each powwow season from Alderville First Nation. They're a tight-knit group.
I have two grown boys now. One is the lead singer of the Charging Horse Singers. My other son is singing with them right now, and they're both full-grown men. And then I have two full-grown daughters, and we have 11 grandchildren in total, and they all participate in some way of dancing or singing, or we have even a little toddler that's still in diapers, but he's always around the drum and dancing and seeing all the outfits and everything all the time, and they listen to powwow music at home. And
according to Smoke, it's become a way of life. The love for drumming and dance began when he was a young teenager growing up in Toronto. He's been coming to this powwow since the 1970s.
Maybe in 1976 I was here. We came with a group from Hamilton, and we competed here, and we were lucky enough to place at the time, so it was pretty interesting. And when you place and feel that competition and kind of stuff, it gets into your blood and just makes you want to go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So
Smoke's granddaughter Clarity is thankful for the life on the trail.
Without powwow, I don't know what I would be doing, right? Without learning the things that I did learn, especially from my grandparents, I don't know where I would be, because there's so much kindness and so much love, especially when you travel with family, or even if you don't and you build your own family here in the different powwows and stuff, you're able to build that sense of community.
Nina Toulouse from Whitefish River First Nation has been jingle dress dancing for 3 years. A year after her mother passed away, she was gifted a red dress. It's been a healing journey.
Like, okay, that's another way of advocating for missing American Indigenous women and girls, and not only for them, but for my mother too as well, and for my own healing. So when I put that dress on, it's not only healing for me, but like I do that spirit work for all those who need that healing, and for those women who are still lost and still needing to return back home.
Sky Ngueo Owen Mayo has been on the trail for about 10 years. It's his first time at the WACon powwow.
It's literally just perfect, you know. I love the whole sense of camping, and it brings back those old memories, right? You know, back in those, for me, the 90s, there was a lot more campers than there is like today, right? You know, we still have some camping, but it's kind of like a, nostalgic flashback to see so many people camping again. So it's been a wonderful time so far.
As this powwow wraps up, many of these dancers will be preparing for the next one. I'll have one more story from here. Annette Francis, APTN National News, WACon First Nation.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Friday. Sav Jones is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next Monday. Ekse.